that an issue? Like when you go out, do you find that people are not wearing masks or are wearing masks in your experience?
So it's you see a little bit of both. I think I notice more the people who aren't wearing a mask, right? Because I want to feel safe and comfortable when I go out. It's hard because I don't want to be that person to say something, but at the same time, and I'm a pretty introverted person. Like I really have, it has to be really bad for me to kind of react to speak up, usually in kind of public settings. But there have been times where I just had to turn around and say like, hey, can you put your mask on and go like stand further away because like you are invading my space right now. Um, and so luckily nobody's had like a crazy reaction back to that. I'm thinking of one time I actually went apple picking with my boyfriend up in the mountains, and we had no idea there was going to be such a long line to get in. And these two young men behind me, they had no masks on, and there was a sign, coming up saying you from here on you have to have a mask on, but leading up from the parking lot, it didn't have, there was no signage. And I like snapped and turned around and was like, can you please put your mask on and please maintain 6 feet? And they both were like, they like didn't know what to do. And then they were like, well, I wear it at work. And it was like, well, that's not the point. Like, clearly you don't understand the rationale behind it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's really frustrating is people see it as I have to do this because everyone's telling me to. It's like they don't understand like the science behind it and why it's so important. And so yeah, it's challenging. And how do you get people to understand, especially if so many, of our, with when politics have become a part of it, and so many like our country's president,
Yeah.
has not supported that. So it is challenging.
Yeah. And I think that's a big issue because I go on Twitter on a daily basis. And some of the things I read are people are like, it's proven that masks don't work. And, they're just very like, oh, they're trying to control you and the government wants to tell you what to do. And I'm literally like, how many people have to die? Like, does it have to
Mhm.
be your husband, your wife, your child? I mean, I don't understand when you look at the numbers. And people still like they don't get it. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah. And I've heard, the analogies of it's like a speed limit, right? Like we all know when we drive, there's a reason why speed limits are set at a certain number. Like it's for our own safety, to help prevent accidents and reduce the chance of getting hurt. And I mean, of course, there's always, we've all gone over the speed limit at some point, and some people might do it intentionally more than others, but, there is like this common understanding, like, okay, I have to respect that. And so why isn't it the same for a mask? Is it just because it's new and we've had the speed limit for so many years? It's, we were born and it was there. So I don't know if that's part of it or if it's just, it's gotten so political that it doesn't even matter what the rationale is. Um,
Yeah, I definitely feel that way because people are like, oh, it's going to get worse, because not everyone, but like 6 million people were flying before Thanksgiving. And, with Christmas coming up, it's going to increase. I don't see that there's anything you can say to people who don't believe it or understand it or, are willfully ignorant at this point. It's like it's been 10 months. I don't think people are going to change their opinion on it. What do you think?
yeah, I mean, I think from what I mean, it's crazy because there are even people in healthcare who are not following it, right? Like, you know, someone who might be a nurse might still have a wedding ceremony, and it's like you work in healthcare, like what are you doing?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there's this kind of invincible feeling like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. And until it really hits you, I think, when you hear of someone that you're somehow connected to.
Mhm.
And I hate it to get to that point for it to really hit you to become more nervous about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I'm seeing is people just have this invincible feeling until, your friend's, grandfather died, or, your cousin's cousin, and you're like, whoa, like that is a connection there that it's closer than I thought.
Yeah. And going back to leadership, the irresponsibility that you're saying, like people having weddings or gatherings. I saw like the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Did you see on the news? He had this. He went to like this lodge up in Napa Valley, and there were a bunch of people at the table, and nobody was wearing masks. And of course, somebody took a picture of it. And the thing was, it's like I had really respected him and the policies that he was putting in place. And when I saw that, I'm like, I literally just like, I don't have any respect for him. He's like, oh, I apologize. I made a mistake. I'm like, but you knew. Like, I know better.
Mm-hmm.
You know better. Like, what is the point of saying, oh, I made a mistake this one time when it's like we all know better? I haven't gone to any kind of social event or I haven't eaten inside a restaurant since March. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm maybe over cautious or paranoid, but I'm like, you're the governor of a state. You know people are watching you. There's like no excuse.
Right. Yeah. And I think, yeah, and it's hard. I mean, I'm just thinking, like family gatherings or something, and I mean, I think, I've been torn with that decision too of like, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings, but at the same time, I want to be safe. But what can I do kind of in between to, as a middle ground? And there's a lot of social pressure. Like
For sure.
when you go somewhere, you trust that everyone else is going to do the right thing and, keep their distance and wear a mask, even when we go to the grocery store. And we know that doesn't happen. There's always someone with their cart like right behind you. And you're like, whoa, like at checkout, like
Exactly.
I need some space here. So, I mean, it is challenging, but I do think people who are in high visible leadership positions, that taking those positions, you have to walk the walk, and so it's, I mean, I agree. Yeah. I think someone who is that high, has that visibility, needs to remember that when they're making their decisions for sure. Especially the stakes are so high. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, I got a speeding ticket. I made a mistake, whatever. Like people can, this is like a very um high stake situation for sure.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You do get pushback from people, and people will be like, I see people I know having gatherings with their family, like huge events indoors on Instagram, and I'll message people and be like, really, like, what are you doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense because I think, like, if they got it or if their relatives, their mom, their grandma, they'd be so devastated. And I would feel like,
Yeah,
why didn't I say something if I saw it? See something, say something.
right.
Um, but a lot of people are like, oh, well, I know them or they're my family. And, The Rock, he got it, his wife, both his kids got it from a family friend coming over.
Hmm.
And it's like, just because you love people, that doesn't change the virus.
Right. And I do think, I mean, maybe to give like a different side of it too is sometimes, we don't know the behind the scenes. Like, did they get tested before they went home? I know that when my sister has come, she's gotten tested. When my boyfriend and I went home for Thanksgiving to my parents, it's within driving distance. Like he had gotten a test, so if he had had it, I definitely would have had it. So we were trying to balance it, and so I think yeah, there are some things behind the scenes. People are trying to be as cautious as they can. But yeah, I think I think you're right. Like there is like an awareness piece, and what does that mean if you're showing it on your social media platform, are you encouraging other people subliminally like to do
Yep.
that too? So it's definitely a balance, I think, for sure.